Who's your favorite YouTuber and why? I've been thinking a lot about this lately, not about what my favorite YouTuber, well, yes, but also like, what's our format? That's the question I keep sort of coming back to. Like, what is the thing that makes us as creators differentiated from everything else that's out there? You know, you look at the people who are popular on YouTube, Mr. Beast. He sort of perfected the game show-esque, like giving money away and creating crazy challenges that people compete for. Ryan Trahan has perfected the sort of finding the silly and fun and interesting in the most mundane. You've got people like Veritasium, who like their angle is showing you the deep, interesting science. And then you got people like Mark Rober or Nile Red, who are brilliant scientists in their own right, but their entire purpose is just to like make it weird and silly and build some strange thing with that science knowledge. Like, everybody has sort of their angle, their format, the thing that they can say, this is what we sit inside, right? It would be super strange to like go to Dude Perfect and like the title of the video is something about trick shots, and then it's like a philosophical conversation. Like, you sign up for the format, you actually show up at the channel because they're doing something you like. And then if you find that while they're doing the thing that you like, that you also like them, you come back, right? You show up the first time because they're doing something you like, but you become the audience and you come back because of who they are. And I've really been trying to figure that out for like us. A lot of these channels, you know, you look at like Ryan Trahan, his early channel, like it was a running channel. It wasn't what it is now. He was literally teaching people to run. When you look at Mr. Beast in the early days, he was like counting as high as he could, and he was saying Logan Paul over and over and over. It was not at all what the channel is now. Then there's some people like Dude Perfect's first video was a trick shot video, right? I think Mark Rober's first video was some weird engineering invention. He made like a Halloween costume out of like iPads or something like that. Like, some people, they know what they're doing right away. I don't. I think I'm okay with that part, but I'm still trying to figure out what exactly do we do? Like, where do we go from here? I think what makes us unique, I think what makes us interesting, I think what sets us apart is that we make large-scale film projects. A lot of people on YouTube, when they say like, I'm making a movie, like they mean that they're making like a YouTube video and it's going to be like 3 minutes long and it's going to be like just them and one other person making it. And that's great. Like, obviously that's how we started too, but like, I think what we do that's different is we make long form content that can and does end up on streaming services. And like, I don't see a lot of people doing that on YouTube. So I think that's what makes us unique, but trying to figure out how to, like, what's the format? Is it this? Is it like sitting in a mic and sort of a one-on-one, just me and you? Is it doing this, but changing the scenery and vlogging it? Is it the podcast where I'm talking to someone about the project? Like, we're sort of just experimenting, throwing stuff at the wall, trying to figure out what feels right for us. Because I think as I go back and look at some of like my favorite YouTubers, favorite people creating content, it gives me great comfort knowing that they didn't have it figured out at the beginning either, that they sort of just experimented and just made content for a while until suddenly something like felt right. Again, some of them. Obviously guys like Dude Perfect. I'm just not that guy. I don't have that much vision apparently, but it reminds me of this book. I read this book, I think last year. It's called Range. I'm going to probably just start vomiting through these videos. I think there's a lot of stuff that over the last few years, like I've been learning that I haven't really had an outlet for. And I think this is a great opportunity for it. But I read a book called Range. And in that book, they talked about what they call single loop learners. Okay. Single loop learning is this idea that for us, the first thing that works tends to be equated with the only thing that works, okay? I'll actually give you the actual definition. They favor the first familiar solution that comes to mind. So the point being, they favor those solutions that first come to mind. What they did is they did a study with a bunch of college students. They gave them a sequence of like a bunch of light bulbs basically that they had to turn on in a specific sequence. Let me get this right. I'm trying to remember. It was like a logic puzzle where they had to hit certain switches to turn light bulbs on and off in sequence. And this thing could be solved 70 different ways. Okay, there was a bunch of ways, not a million. There's literally 70. There's a bunch of different ways to solve this problem. But the way that the researchers did it to get them to study this single loop learning is they They gave them a small cash reward the minute they solved it. Okay, so think about this. There were 70 different ways to solve this problem, but there was a reward the minute it got solved. So what did like every single person do? They tried, failed, won. They figured one of the 70 ways out. So then what did they do? Did they go, okay, that's one way, let me find the other way? No, because there was a prize. So what did they do? They just went and they just did that on repeat. Once they found a way that works, they just did it over and over and over and over. And I think that's the thing that I'm afraid of getting stuck into. One thing that whether you're Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan, Dude Perfect, whatever, like the guys who do it great, the one thing that I watch them do over and over and over is they're actually willing, because they understand who they are as creators, what they do well, their audience, because they understand that portion of it, the analytics actually at such a deep level, they can experiment with formats, right? Dude Perfect got really popular doing trick shots, and then they went on a leap, like they went out on a ledge and they did stereotypes, and they were very nervous to do that, but then it did super well. So then they tried going back to trick shots, but then they were doing stereotypes still. And then they started adding in overtime, right? And then they're doing a live show now, like gaming. Like there's a million different angles that they can do now because they've found like what their audience likes from them. Here's the things we have to stick within the parameters of. There's this eating channel that I like called Jolly. Jolly is like someone's trying new food every episode, and Josh and Ollie, that's why they're called Jolly, are going to be in the episode. It doesn't mean they're always the ones eating the food. But someone in this episode is going to be trying a food they've never tried before, and Josh and Ollie are going to be there. Like that's sort of their format, and then within that, we can do it a million different ways. And I think that's what I'm really trying to figure out, because guys like Ryan Trahan got famous doing the Penny series. And so a single loop learner would have just kept finding new ways to reinvent that Penny series. But because he's a really good content creator, what he actually did was leverage that audience into something totally different. And now he's sort of said he's never doing a Penny series ever again. I don't know if that'll end up being true, but he's at least not doing one anytime soon. And I'm trying to figure that out. What is the thing, the parameter, the format that like we do best within, so that then within that we can experiment? And obviously for now, until we figure that out, we're just going to experiment. But I don't know, I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to this. I definitely feel like at this point, this is something I'm going to have to find organically. I think it's going to be like we try a random idea and suddenly it just works. And then we go, oh, okay, let's try that again. Here's the only thing I'm afraid of. And I'll end with this. There's something called the curse of virality. The curse of virality is essentially this term in social media of like what often happens is someone, you've seen this especially if you're like on TikTok, if you're a brain rot person, like somebody goes viral on TikTok for something, it was a total accident, and now they're that person. The next video they make, they have to do the same thing, and the next video they make, they have to do the same thing, and they're stuck in that single loop because they don't know how to get out. And some of these formats, I think short form, something like TikTok is especially good at like over rewarding the dopamine hit of like that single loop learning, but they don't know how to get out because they're not actually content creators. They're people who stumbled accidentally into virality. So I'm trying to figure out how to create content. I've studied film for 15 years, and I think over time gotten significantly better at like how to do that. And I haven't stuck to a format. Every major project we've done for 15 years has actually been a different genre. But in each genre, in each project, I've tried to learn something different about why and how that worked, so that I feel like we can make things, and I do think we do this, we can make things that like hit hard in a joke, and then you're immediately feeling emotions in the next beat, and then we go back to joking around, and like, I wouldn't have learned that if I focused all my attention on drama or all my attention on comedy. So we've got this weird hybrid now. So now how do we do that as content creators on YouTube? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I know we have to stumble into this organically. I know this is just part of the process, and at this point I'm submitted to it and I'm okay with it, and it doesn't bother me to no end like it used to. But if you have thoughts, throw them in the comment. Throw them in the comments. What's your favorite version of what we do? When we make a video, when you see it's this, when do you get into it quickest? I'm curious. Love you. Thanks for sticking around. Also, the episode 3 script is available. This is your announcement that the episode 3 script is on the website. Go read it. Love you.